Hello and welcome to another tutorial on Shay's Tech Academy. In this tutorial, we will discuss while loops in Python. A while loop is a type of loop in Python that allows you to repeat a block of code as long as a certain condition is true. They allow you to create dynamic and flexible loops that continue iterating until a specific condition is no longer met. While loops are useful in situations where you want to repeat a certain task until a particular condition is satisfied, and you may not know in advance how many iterations will be required. For example, a very basic scenario could be user input validations, meaning you can use a while loop to repeatedly ask the user for input until they provide valid data that meets certain criteria. Let's go through some example. In this code, we have a while loop that will iterate as long as the condition count is less than 5 is true. Initially, the count variable is set to 0. Inside the loop, the code block is executed, which prints the value of count and increments it by 1 using the count plus equals 1 statement. The loop continues executing until the condition count less than 5 becomes false, which happens when count reaches 5. After the loop terminates, the program exits and the output shows the values of count during each iteration. In this specific example, the code will print the numbers from 0 to 4 because the loop iterates 5 times. Hence, the while loop is useful when you need to repeat a block of code until a certain condition is met, such as performing a task a specific number of times or iterating over data until a particular condition is satisfied. Let's take a look at an example where we use while loops along with the Boolean expressions and some user inputs. In this code, we have a while loop that runs indefinitely. Let's see a breakdown of what we are doing. We first prompt the user to enter their name using the input function. We then check if the entered name is equal to quit using the equal operator. If the name is quit, we print a message indicating that the user quits the program. For this, we use the break statement to exit the loop and end the program. If the name is not quit, we print a greeting message using the entered name. This code creates an interactive program that repeatedly asks for the user's name until they enter quit, at which point it displays a farewell message and terminates. Let's take a look at a third example. While loops can also be used to process data from a list or other iterable. Let's see how. In this code, there is a list called numbers containing the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The code uses a while loop to repeatedly perform some steps. First of all, the condition numbers is checked. Since the list is not empty, the condition evaluates to true and the loop is entered. Then the print statement is executed with numbers.pop. The pop method removes and returns the last element from the list numbers. Then the value returned by numbers.pop is printed. The loop repeats from step 1 until the numbers list becomes empty. As a result, the code prints each element of the numbers list in reverse order, starting from the last element, until all elements have been removed from the list. The output will be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's take a look at a fourth example here. In this example, we will use a while loop to implement a simple guess the number game. We want to write a small program which allows user to enter a number between certain range. The program will keep asking for the number until the user guesses the correct number. To make it a bit more interesting, we will use if-else statements which we learned in our previous lesson and give some hints to the user. Let's take a look at an example. Don't get confused at once. We will go through it line by line together and try to understand what's happening here. First, we import the random module, which allows us to generate random numbers. We use the random.randint function to generate a random number between 1 and 100 inclusive. This random number is stored in the secret underscore number variable. We initialize 2 variables, guess and attempts. Guess is set to none initially, and attempts is set to 0. Initially, we don't have any valid guess from the player, therefore, by setting guess to none, we indicate that the player has not made any guess yet. And then we start with 0 attempts because the player hasn't made any guesses yet. As the game progresses, the attempts variable will be incremented each time the player makes a guess. This means that the variable attempts will keep track of the number of attempts made by the player. We print a welcome message to the player. The while loop begins, and it will continue until the player's guess matches the secret underscore number. Inside the loop, we prompt the player to enter their guess using the input function. The entered value is converted to an integer using int and stored in the guess variable. We then increment the attempts variable by 1 to keep track of the number of attempts made. Next, we compare the player's guess with the secret underscore number using if and else statements. If the guess is lower than the secret underscore number, we print too low. Try again, and the loop continues. If the guess is higher than the secret underscore number, we print too high. Try again, and the loop continues. If the guess is equal to the secret underscore number, we print a congratulatory message with the correct secret underscore number and the number of attempts made. We use formatted strings, f-strings, to include the values of variables in the message. Finally, we use the break statement to exit the loop since the player has guessed the correct number. Let's test this out and see how it works. Well, that's it for this tutorial. I think we have covered enough to get you started with while loops for now. I hope you found this lesson informative and learned from it. Let's catch up in the next lesson, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to keep going and creating more tutorials on Python programming.